I never thought I'd be the guy posting his life's wreckage on Reddit. You read these stories and think, how could he be so blind? Well, now I know. It's not blindness, it's trust. Or at least it was. My wife, Elena, and I have been married for 7 years. No kids. We both agreed early on that we wanted to focus on our careers and travel. I'm an architect, and she works in high-end retail management. About 8 months ago, her car was totaled in a parking lot 8 and run. While we were haggling with insurance and looking for a replacement, she started using rideshare apps to get to her gallery in the city. That's how she met Leo. At first, he was just the driver with the clean Camry. Then he became the guy who's always around when I need a ride. Eventually, Elena told me she'd worked out a private deal with him. She'd just text him directly and pay him cash to avoid the app fees. "He's so reliable, babe," she told me over dinner one night, barely looking up from her phone. "And he doesn't talk my ear off like the other drivers. It's just easier." I didn't think twice about it. I was busy with a massive project, and I was just glad she had a safe, consistent way to get home when she worked late. But working late started happening a lot more often. It started with an extra hour, then she'd be home at 10 p.m., then midnight. When she did come home, she was cold. If I tried to kiss her or ask how her day was, she'd snap. "I'm exhausted, okay? My God, stop suffocating me," she'd yell, throwing her designer bag on the counter. "I've been dealing with demanding clients all day, and now I have to deal with your 20 questions?" She started smelling different, too. Not her usual floral perfume, but something musky, masculine. When I pointed it out, she looked me dead in the eye and laughed. "It's the air freshener in Leo's car, you paranoid freak. It's called Black Ice. Do you want me to ask him to change it just so your fragile ego feels better?" She was so convincing. She made me feel like I was the crazy one. She'd lie about traffic, lie about inventory counts, and lie about why she was suddenly dressing in her good silk dresses just for a Tuesday at the office. I stayed quiet. I wanted to believe her. I didn't know that every time she stepped into that car, she wasn't just headed to work. She was headed into the arms of the man she was replacing me with. The gaslighting was the worst part. Looking back, Elena wasn't just lying. She was auditioning for an Oscar. Every time I brought up a discrepancy, she made me feel like I was losing my mind. Last Tuesday, I finished a project early and decided to surprise her with her favorite takeout, Thai food from the place across town. I called her at 6 p.m. "Babe, I'm picking up pad thai. I'll be home in 20. The silence on the other end lasted a beat too long. Then came the sigh, that heavy, "you're so annoying" sigh she'd perfected lately. "Jillian, for the love of God, I told you I have a late inventory count. I'm stuck here until at least 9 p.m. Don't wait up and don't suffocate me with food I'm too stressed to eat." She hung up before I could say another word. I felt like a kicked dog. But then curiosity, or maybe a gut feeling I'd been suppressing, got the better of me. I drove past her gallery on my way home. The lights were out. The closed sign was flipped. Her office window was dark. I called her again. She didn't pick up. 10 minutes later, I got a text. "In a meeting with the regional manager. Phone is dying. See you later." I went home and sat in the dark. At 11:30 p.m., a familiar black Camry pulled up to the curb. I watched from behind the blinds. Elena didn't get out right away. The car sat there for 10 minutes, the engine idling, the headlights off. When she finally stepped out, she wasn't wearing her blazer. It was draped over her arm. Her hair, which she usually kept in a tight professional bun, was loose and messy. She walked up the driveway, humming to herself. When she walked in, I was sitting on the couch. I didn't turn on the light. "Where were you?" I asked. She jumped, clutching her chest. "Jesus, Jillian, you scared the hell out of me. I told you I was at work. Why are you sitting in the dark like a serial killer?" "I drove by the gallery, Elena. It was dark at 6:30. She didn't even flinch. She just rolled her eyes and threw her keys on the table. "We moved the meeting to a cafe nearby because the AC in the gallery was acting up. God, are you tracking me now? Is this what we've become? You're acting like a pathetic, insecure child. I'm trying to build a future for us, and you're playing detective." She walked past me, bumping my shoulder on purpose. "I'm taking a shower. Don't come in. I need space from your negativity." I sat there, stunned. She made me feel guilty for catching her in a lie, but as she walked away, I noticed a smudge on the back of her neck, a dark purple bruise, a hickey. I didn't say anything yet. I needed to be sure. I didn't know that the sure part was going to happen much sooner than I expected, and in the most humiliating way possible. The next morning, the house felt like a tomb. Elena was already gone by 7:30 a.m. "Leo is early," she shouted from the hallway, not even bothering to look into the kitchen where I was sitting with a cold cup of coffee. I heard the familiar hum of that Camry pulling away. I couldn't work. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that bruise on her neck and heard her calling me a pathetic, insecure child. I did something I'm not proud of. I went into our shared home office and checked the backup of our cloud account. Elena is tech-savvy, but she's arrogant. She thinks I'm too analog to notice anything. I didn't find messages. She was too smart for that. But I found the credit card statements. We have a joint account for emergencies that we rarely touch. I saw a string of withdrawals. $200 here, $300 there, all labeled as cash withdrawal ATM. The locations? Always near a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city or near a 24-hour car wash. Then I found it, a receipt from a tech store 3 weeks ago, a burner phone and a prepaid SIM card. My heart dropped into my stomach. She wasn't just having a momentary lapse, she was running a covert operation. I waited until she came home that evening. She walked in at 9 p.m. looking flushed, her blouse slightly wrinkled. Before she could start her usual "I'm so tired" routine, I held up the printout of the bank statement. "Elena, why are we withdrawing $1,500 in cash over the last month at an ATM next to the Sunset Inn?" She didn't even blink. Her face went from tired to vicious in a split second. "Are you serious right now? You're stalking our bank accounts? I told you, I've been paying Leo in cash to save on the app fees. And that motel? I have to drop off documents for a client who stays there when they're in town. Do you have any idea how insulting this is? And the burner phone, Elena? I saw the receipt." She let out a high-pitched, hysterical laugh. It was a sound I'd never heard from her before, sharp and jagged. "The phone? It's for work. My boss wants us to have separate lines for high-profile clients so they don't have our personal numbers. God, Julian, you are reaching so hard it's embarrassing. You're so desperate to make me the villain because you're bored with your own life." She grabbed a glass of water and threw the contents toward the sink, splashing the counter. "I can't even look at you. You're disgusting. I'm going to sleep in the guest room. Don't you dare follow me." She slammed the guest room door and locked it. I stood there, trembling. I knew she was lying, but the way she flipped the script, making me the disgusting one, was working. I was starting to doubt my own eyes. I decided right then, I wasn't going to argue anymore. I was going to follow her. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the living room floor, staring at the guest room door, listening to her muffled voice through the wood. She wasn't crying. She was whispering. I couldn't hear the words, but the tone was sweet, giggling even, the kind of voice she used to use with me years ago. The next morning, I did something I never thought I was capable of. I called out of work, telling my firm I had a family emergency. Technically, I wasn't lying. I waited until Leo's black Camry pulled up at exactly 8 a.m. I watched from the upstairs window as Elena walked out. She was wearing her shortest skirt and a pair of heels I hadn't seen her wear in a year. She didn't look tired today. She looked vibrant. She hopped into the front seat, not the back, and leaned over to kiss the driver. My stomach did a somersault. It wasn't just a peck. It was long. It was lingering. I ran to my old truck, which I'd parked 2 blocks away the night before so she wouldn't see me leave. I followed them. I stayed 3 cars back, my hands shaking so hard I could barely grip the steering wheel. They didn't go to the gallery. They didn't even head toward the city center. Instead, they drove toward the industrial district, a place of warehouses and dead-end streets. Leo pulled the car into a gravel lot behind an abandoned textile mill. There were no other cars around, just the gray sky, the weeds growing through the cracks, and that black Camry. I parked my truck behind a row of rusted shipping containers and watched through a pair of binoculars I usually use for site surveys. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then I saw the steam starting to fog up the back windows of the car. The car began to rock gently. I felt a coldness wash over me. It wasn't anger yet. It was a profound, hollow emptiness. I've been building houses for people for 15 years, ensuring every foundation is solid, every beam is straight. And here I was watching the foundation of my own life crumble in the back of a cheap rideshare car. I pulled out my phone and dialed her work number. I watched through the binoculars. Inside the car, a silhouette moved. The rocking stopped for a second. She declined the call. I called again, declined. Then I sent a text. "Hey, the gallery just called our home landline. They said you didn't show up for the morning meeting. Is everything okay?" I saw her head pop up in the window. Even from a distance, I could see her frantic movements. She was typing. A second later, my phone buzzed. "I'm in the basement storage doing inventory. No signal here. Stop calling me. You're embarrassing me in front of my staff." The sheer, naked audacity of that lie, it broke something inside me. I didn't jump out. I didn't scream. Not yet. I just took a photo of the car, the license plate, and the fogged-up windows. I drove away. I needed a lawyer, and I needed a plan. I spent the rest of that afternoon in a cold, sterile office downtown. My lawyer, a woman named Sarah who'd seen it all, didn't look shocked when I showed her the photos. She just sighed and started typing. "The photos are good for context, Julian," she said, her voice professional but not unkind. "But in this state, we need to look at the finances. Infidelity is one thing, but dissipation of marital assets is another. If she's using your shared money to fund this affair, we can claw some of that back." She asked me to log into our secondary accounts, things I hadn't looked at in months because I trusted Elena implicitly. What I found made the air leave my lungs. It wasn't just $1,500. Over the last 4 months, Elena had been reimbursing Leo for more than just rides. There were Venmo payments disguised as gallery supplies, catering deposit, and late-night courier, totaling nearly $8,000. But the kicker? She had opened a secret credit card in her name but used our home address. I went home and raided the junk mail pile I usually ignore. Hidden under a stack of flyers was a statement. She had bought him a new set of tires, a high-end dash cam, and this was the knife in the heart, a weekend getaway at a spa resort 3 towns over for 2 adults. The dates? The same weekend she told me she was at a leadership retreat in the mountains. I felt like a fool, a massive architectural-grade fool. I'd been working 60-hour weeks to pay off our mortgage while she was literally upgrading her lover's vehicle with my sweat and blood. I didn't confront her that night. Sarah told me to play it cool. "Don't let her know you know," she warned. "Let her keep digging the hole. The deeper it is, the easier it is to bury the marriage." When Elena came home at 10:30 p.m., she was in a mood. She didn't even say hello. She walked into the kitchen, saw me sitting there with a book, and immediately started picking a fight. "Why is the dishwasher not unloaded?" she snapped, slamming a cupboard door. "I work all day. I come home to a husband who does nothing but sit around and judge me with his silence. You're so lazy, Julian. No wonder I don't want to be around you." I just looked at her. I didn't get angry. I didn't argue. I just felt nothing. "I'll do it now, Elena," I said quietly. "Yeah, whatever. You're pathetic. Honestly, sometimes I wish you'd just go away. You're a drain on my energy." She grabbed a bottle of wine and headed for the guest room, locking the door again. I heard her phone chime, a text, then her muffled, high-pitched giggle again. I went to the dishwasher and started unloading the plates. My hands were steady, but my mind was racing. I wasn't just going to go away, Elena, but you were right about one thing. Someone was going to be leaving this house very soon. For the next 3 days, I was a ghost in my own home. I watched her, the way she hummed while packing a suitcase, the way she checked her reflection in the mirror with a predatory smirk. She wasn't just happy, she was gloating, even if she thought I didn't know why. On Friday morning, she dropped the bomb over coffee. "I have a business trip," she said, not looking at me. "It's a regional conference in the city, 4 days. I'll be staying at the Hilton near the gallery to save on commute time. Don't call me unless the house is literally on fire. I need to network without you checking in every 5 minutes." "The Hilton?" I asked, keeping my voice flat. "I thought your company usually used the Marriott." She slammed her mug down. "Oh, here we go. Now you're an expert on corporate travel? They changed it, Julian. My God, you are so pedantic. This is exactly why I can't wait to get out of this house for a few days. You stifle me." I watched her drag her suitcase to the door. "Will Leo be taking you?" She froze for a split second, then sneered. "Yes, he is, because unlike you, he's actually reliable. He's picking me up in 10 minutes, and don't bother waving from the window like a creep." As soon as that black Camry pulled away, I called Sarah, my lawyer. "She's on the move," I said, "and she's using the joint emergency fund for the hotel. I just got the notification on my phone." "Perfect. Now do exactly what we discussed. Don't go to the hotel. Don't cause a scene there. We want the evidence where they feel safest, in that car." But then, a sudden event changed everything. I received a call from my neighbor, Mrs. Gable. She's 80, has the eyes of a hawk, and loves me because I fixed her porch for free last summer. "Julian, dear, I don't mean to pry, but I just saw Elena get into that taxi. But she didn't head toward the highway. They pulled into the car wash at the end of the block. They've been parked in the back bay for 20 minutes, the one with the out of order sign." My blood turned to ice. They weren't even leaving the neighborhood before they started. They were so emboldened, so certain of my pathetic nature, that they were doing it practically in my backyard. I didn't think. I didn't call Sarah back. I grabbed my keys and my phone. I drove to the car wash. I didn't park. I pulled right up to the back bay. The black Camry was there, windows completely opaque with steam, tucked into the shadows of the out-of-order stall. I got out of my truck. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. I walked up to the driver's side window and knocked hard. The car rocked violently. A muffled scream came from inside. "Elena," I yelled, "open the door." I heard frantic shuffling. Then the window rolled down just 2 inches. Leo's face appeared, sweaty, panicked, looking nothing like the professional Elena had described. "Hey man, we're just talking," he stammered. Then I heard Elena's voice from the passenger seat, and it wasn't panicked. It was pure, unadulterated venom. "Get the hell away from this car, Julian. You're stalking me. I'm calling the police. You finally lost it, you psycho." She wasn't ashamed. She was hysterical. She started screaming at the top of her lungs. "Help! He's harassing me! Leo, drive! Drive!"
The engine roared. Leo didn't even look at me. He just slammed the car into reverse. I had to jump back to avoid my toes being crushed by the tires of the very Camry I'd basically paid for. But he didn't get far. In his panic, he backed straight into a concrete bollard at the end of the wash bay. A sickening crunch of plastic and metal echoed through the quiet morning. The car stalled. Elena was out of the door before the smoke even cleared. She didn't check if Leo was okay. She didn't look at the damage. She marched straight toward me, her face contorted into something I barely recognized. "Are you happy now?" she shrieked. Her silk blouse was buttoned incorrectly, and her hair was a bird's nest. "You broke his car. You're a stalker. I'm calling the police, Julian. You're going to jail for this." "I broke his car?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady despite the adrenaline. Elena, you're in the back of a car wash with your driver at 9 a.m. on a Friday. Your suitcase is in the trunk. Do you really think the police are the ones you want to call? She didn't stop. She started hitting my chest with her fists, weak, hysterical thumps. Liar, you're a liar. He was helping me with a panic attack. I couldn't breathe and he pulled over to help me. You're so abusive. You've driven me to this. Finally, Leo stumbled out of the driver's side, looking like a deer in headlights. He looked at his crumpled bumper, then at me. Look, man, I didn't want any trouble. She told me you guys were separated. She said you were a deadbeat. Elena spun on him. Shut up, Leo. Don't say a word to him. He's dangerous. She turned back to me, her eyes darting around as she tried to construct a new lie on the fly. I was leaving you anyway, Julian. I've been unhappy for years. You're boring. You're a nothing. Leo actually sees me. He treats me like a queen, not some roommate who sands wood all day. Then she did the one thing I didn't expect. She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and actually dialed 911. Yes, I need police at the car wash on 4th. My husband is attacking me and my driver. He's smashing the car. Please, hurry. He has a weapon. I looked down at my hands. They were empty. I looked at the weapon, the phone in my hand that was recording every single second of her hysterical, lying performance. Elena, I said quietly as the sirens began to wail in the distance, I'm not the one going to jail today, but you are definitely moving out. The look of pure, unhinged hatred she gave me then, it was the moment I realized the woman I loved never actually existed. The flashing blue and red lights reflecting off the wet pavement of the car wash felt like a movie set. 2 patrol cars pulled up, and the officers stepped out, hands near their belts. Elena didn't wait for them to approach. She literally collapsed onto the gravel, wailing. It was the most pathetic, over-the-top performance I've ever seen. "He's going to kill me! He followed us! He smashed the car!" she screamed, pointing a trembling finger at me. "He's been stalking me for weeks! Officer, please, I'm scared for my life!" One officer, a burly guy who looked like he'd seen too many domestic disputes, moved toward me. "Sir, keep your hands where I can see them. Step away from the vehicle." I did exactly what he said. I remained calm. I didn't yell. I didn't even look at Elena, who was now hyperventilating in the arms of the second officer. "Officer," I said, my voice cracking slightly from the adrenaline, "I'm the husband. That's my wife. The car belongs to that man over there, her driver. I haven't touched anyone. I haven't touched the car. He backed into that bollard himself when he tried to flee." Leo was leaning against the Camry, looking like he wanted to vanish into the exhaust pipe. "Is that true?" the officer asked Leo. Leo looked at Elena, then at the cop, then at his smashed bumper. I panicked. He just appeared at the window. I put it in reverse and hit the post." Elena shrieked from the ground. "Leo, tell them he hit us. Tell them he had a tire iron. Julian, why are you doing this to me? Why are you trying to ruin my life?" She turned to the officer, her face wet with tears that I now knew were crocodile. "He's been abusive for years, officer. I was just trying to get to work. Leo is the only person who makes me feel safe. My husband is a monster." The officer looked at me, his expression softening into suspicion. "Sir, she's making some heavy allegations. Do you have anything to say?" I didn't say a word. I simply unlocked my phone, opened the video I'd just recorded, and handed it to him. The video started with me walking up to the car. You could clearly see my hands were empty. You could hear my calm voice asking her to open the door. Then you could see the car lurch backward into the bollard. But the most damning part, the audio. The recording caught Elena's voice perfectly. "Leo, drive, drive!" followed by her screaming into the phone to 911 that I had a weapon when the video clearly showed I didn't. The officer watched the whole thing, then he watched it again. He looked at Elena, who was still sobbing on the ground, pretending to be a victim.
"Ma'am," the officer said, his voice now cold and professional. "Stand up. Now." I said stand up. Making a false police report is a crime, and from what I'm seeing on this video, you're the only one being aggressive here. Elena's face transformed in a heartbeat. The tears stopped. The fragility vanished. She stood up, brushed the gravel off her skirt, and looked at me with a sneer so sharp it could have cut glass. "Fine," she spat. "So you caught me. You think you're so smart, Julian? You're still a loser, a boring, pathetic architect who spends more time with pieces of wood than his own wife. I hope you enjoy the house. It's as empty and dead as you are." She turned to Leo. "Get the bags out of the trunk. We're calling a different Uber. This one is junk anyway." I just stood there. I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. She had finally stopped pretending. The monster was out in the light.
The police let us go after taking our statements. They warned Elena about false reporting, but since no one was physically hurt and it was a, quote, domestic dispute, they didn't cuff her. I watched her climb into a different rideshare car with Leo, leaving his wrecked Camry for a tow truck. She didn't look back. She just gave me the middle finger through the window as they sped off. I drove home in a daze. I expected to feel devastated. Instead, I felt like I had just finished a grueling 14-hour shift, sore, exhausted, but relieved it was over. But the relief vanished the moment I turned my key in the front door. The house was quiet, too quiet. I walked into the living room and stopped dead. The 65-inch TV was gone. The hand-carved coffee table I'd spent 3 months building, gone. My laptop from the den, gone. I ran to the bedroom. It looked like a tornado had hit it. All of her clothes were gone, which I expected, but she had taken the jewelry box, including my grandmother's heirloom ring and even the high-end mattress. She must have had Leo help her move stuff out over the last few days while I was at work, or perhaps while I was at the lawyer's office. She hadn't been working late. She'd been staging a heist. I checked the safe in the floor of the closet. Empty. The $5,000 in emergency cash we kept for disasters vanished. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Elena. "Since you're so obsessed with our joint assets, I figured I'd take my half early. Consider it a consultation fee for all the years I spent being bored to death by you. Don't bother calling. Leo and I are going to have a much better weekend than you. P.S. The ring? Already sold it to pay for Leo's new bumper. You're welcome." I felt a surge of heat behind my eyes. The coffee table was one thing. The TV was replaceable. But my grandmother's ring? That was the only thing I had left of her. I sat down on the floor of my empty bedroom. The house I had built, the life I had meticulously planned, was stripped bare. I didn't cry. I was past that. I pulled out my phone and called Sarah, my lawyer. It was 2 p.m. on a Friday. "Sarah," I said, my voice trembling with a new kind of energy, "she cleaned me out. She stole an heirloom and emptied the safe, and she just sent me a text admitting she sold the ring to pay for her lover's car." "She did what?" Sarah's voice sharpened. "Julian, stay exactly where you are. Do not touch anything. Take photos of every empty space. That text message she just sent you, that's not a goodbye. That's a confession of grand larceny and dissipation of assets. What do we do now?" "Now?" Sarah let out a cold, sharp laugh. "Now we stop being nice, Julian. We're filing for an emergency injunction to freeze every single account she has access to. And then we're calling the precinct back. She wanted to play the victim? Let's see how she likes being the defendant." I looked around the empty room. It was just wood and drywall now. But for the first time in months, the air felt clean. Elena forgot one very important thing. When she replaced her car, she started using my old iPad for her work emails at the gallery. What she didn't realize was that her new secret burner phone was synced to the same cloud account. I was sitting on the floor of my stripped bare living room when the iPad, sitting on the kitchen counter she'd managed to leave behind, chimed. A notification popped up. "Reservation confirmed, the Riverside Loft. Check-in 4 p.m.
It wasn't the Hilton. It was a boutique Airbnb 3 towns over, right on the water. A place I'd talked about taking her for our anniversary, a trip she'd told me was too rustic and boring. I called Sarah immediately. I know where they are. They're at a loft in Clear Creek. And Sarah, she used our joint credit card to book it. I just got the alert. Julian, do not go there, Sarah warned. I'm filing the emergency injunction as we speak. If you go there and start a fight, it ruins our standing in the divorce. Let the law handle the theft. I'm not going there to fight, I said, my voice cold. I'm going there to get my grandmother's ring back. She told me she sold it, but Elena is a pathological liar. She'd never sell something that valuable that quickly. She'd keep it to spite me or wear it to look high class for her driver. I drove like a man possessed. I reached the riverside loft just as the sun was beginning to dip. There, parked out front, was a brand new rental car. I didn't knock. I didn't yell. I walked around to the back of the property where a large glass sliding door looked out over the river. The curtains weren't drawn. I saw them. They were sitting at a table drinking the expensive champagne I'd bought for New Year's and hidden in the back of our pantry. Elena was laughing, that same sharp, mocking laugh, and she was wearing it, my grandmother's ring. She hadn't sold it. She'd lied just to twist the knife. She looked up and saw me through the glass. Her face didn't go pale. She didn't look ashamed. She stood up, walked to the glass door, and unlocked it just enough to scream at me. You again? Are you kidding me? Are you literally following me across the state? Leo, call the cops. He's stalking us again. Leo stood up, looking terrified. Man, just go home. You're making this weird. I'm not leaving without the ring, Elena, I said, stepping onto the deck. I know you didn't sell it. It's on your finger. She looked at her hand, then back at me, and gave me a wicked, hysterical grin. Oh, this? You want this dusty old piece of junk? You think this makes up for the years you wasted of my life? She stepped back, grabbed her champagne glass, and threw the contents in my face. I'm not giving you anything. This is my pain and suffering tax. Get off the property before I tell the police you tried to rape me. I'll do it, Julian. I'll ruin you. She was screaming so loud her neck veins were bulging. She was fully unhinged, her eyes darting around like a trapped animal. She thought she was untouchable. Then the blue and red lights appeared in the driveway, but they weren't for me. Elena didn't even stop screaming when the 3 officers walked onto the deck. In her twisted mind, she was still the victim. She actually ran toward them, arms outstretched, pointing at me. Thank God you're here. He's back. He followed us to our vacation. He's threatening me. Arrest him. He's a stalker. The lead officer, a woman with a face like granite, didn't even look at me. She looked at Elena, then at the champagne bottle on the table, then at the ring on Elena's finger. Are you Elena V? The officer asked. Yes, and this is my husband. He's... Ma'am, I'm not here about a stalking report. The officer interrupted, pulling a folded set of papers from her belt. I have a warrant for your arrest for grand larceny and the illegal dissipation of marital assets. We also have a recovery order for a 1940s vintage heirloom ring reported stolen from the residence this afternoon. The silence that followed was deafening. Elena's jaw literally dropped. She looked at the papers, then at me, then at the officer. Stolen? I didn't steal anything. This is my house. That's my ring. Julian gave it to me. He's lying. He's a pathological liar. He's trying to frame me because he's jealous of Leo. She turned to Leo, who was backing away toward the kitchen, trying to look like he was just a confused bystander. Leo, tell them. Tell them he gave me the ring. Leo looked at the handcuffs on the officer's belt and cracked. I don't know anything about a ring, Elena. You told me you bought it at a pawn shop. I just drive the car, man. Elena's face went from pale to a deep, hysterical purple. You coward! You pathetic little driver! I paid for your tires. I paid for your bumper. You're gonna let them take me? She lunged at Leo, fingers clawing at his face. The officers had to move in fast. It took 3 of them to restrain her as she thrashed, kicked, and shrieked every profanity in the book. "I'll kill you, Julian. I'll burn the house down with you in it. You think you won? You're nothing. You're a boring, soft little man, and I hate you." As they clipped the cuffs onto Elena's wrists, the lead officer reached out and firmly removed the ring from Elena's finger. She walked over and handed it to me. "Is this the property, sir?" I took it. It was cold, stained with Elena's cheap champagne, but it was mine. "Yes, thank you." "Get him away from me!" Elena was still screaming as they dragged her toward the patrol car. "He's abusive. I'm the victim here. Help! Someone help me!" The neighbors were all out on their decks now, watching the refined gallery manager being shoved into the back of a squad car in a rumpled silk dress. Leo stayed behind, trembling. He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "Look, man, I didn't know she stole the cash. I thought you guys were rich and she was just generous." I looked at him, this man who had been the catalyst for my life's destruction, and I didn't even feel anger, just pity. "The rental car is in her name, Leo," I said quietly, "and I just called the credit card company to report the booking as fraudulent. They're canceling the payment. I'd start walking if I were you." I walked to my truck, the ring tucked safely in my pocket. The vacation was over. The week following Elena's arrest was a whirlwind of legal filings. My lawyer, Sarah, was moving like a shark in blood-filled water. We froze the joint accounts, changed the locks on the now mostly empty house, and filed the formal divorce papers citing adultery, grand larceny, and extreme emotional distress. I thought it was over. I thought she'd just slink away with whatever dignity she had left. I was wrong. Elena doesn't do dignity, she does destruction. 2 days after she was bailed out by her mother, who hates me nearly as much as Elena does, my phone exploded. Not with texts from her, she was under a no-contact order, but with tags on social media. Elena had posted a series of photos of herself looking pale, unkempt, and fragile in a hospital gown. The caption was a masterpiece of fiction. "I've stayed silent for too long. For years I've lived in a gilded cage of psychological abuse. Julian's control was so absolute I didn't even recognize myself. My affair was a desperate cry for help, a search for safety in the arms of someone who didn't scream at me for the way I breathed. I'm currently seeking treatment for the PTSD and reactive hysteria caused by his gaslighting. Please respect my privacy as I heal from his financial abuse and false accusations." The comments were a bloodbath. Her friends, coworkers, and even people I thought were my friends were calling me a monster, a closet abuser, and a manipulator. Then came the legal countermove. Her new lawyer, a shark of his own, filed a motion to stay the divorce and the criminal charges, claiming Elena was not of sound mind when she took the assets and that her actions were a direct result of my coercive control. "She's going for the broken woman defense," Sarah told me, tossing a copy of the filing onto her desk. "She's claiming she had a nervous breakdown because of your abuse and that the money she took was just her trying to secure her safety." "But I have the video," I shouted. "I have the video of her screaming that I had a weapon when I didn't." "She's claiming that was a dissociative episode brought on by fear," Sarah sighed. "It's a classic tactic. She wants to delay the trial, bleed you dry on legal fees, and hope you settle just to make it stop." But Elena made one fatal mistake in her mental health post. She tagged the location of the clinic she was staying at. It wasn't a psychiatric hospital. It was a luxury wellness retreat in the desert, the kind that costs $2,000 a night. And she was paying for it with a credit card she'd opened using my business tax ID number, which she'd stolen from my office months ago. She wasn't healing. She was vacationing on my professional reputation. "Sarah," I said, leaning over her desk, "she just committed identity theft and business fraud. Does mental health cover that too?" Sarah's eyes lit up. "Not in this state it doesn't, Julian. She just handed us the keys to the jail cell." The Serenity Sands Wellness Retreat was exactly the kind of place Elena always dreamed of. Minimalist white stone, infinity pools, and healing crystals that cost more than my first truck. While she was posting photos of her morning green juice with captions like, "Reclaiming my peace from my abuser," Sarah and I were at the magistrate's office with a stack of bank records and my business tax filings. Elena hadn't just used a secret card. She had opened a business line of credit in the name of my architectural firm. She had forged my signature on the digital application. It wasn't just a divorce issue anymore. It was federal-level fraud. The sudden event this time? The retreat required a valid ID and a matching credit card for incidentals. When she swiped that forged business card, it flagged the fraud alert we'd set up that morning. I wasn't there for the arrest, but I saw the video. One of the other guests caught it on their phone and posted it to TikTok with the tag, "Retreat Drama." In the video, Elena is sitting on a yoga mat overlooking the desert. She looks serene until two state troopers walk onto the deck. The change was instantaneous. The peace vanished. She didn't act like a victim of PTSD. She acted like a spoiled child being told no for the first time in her life. "Do you have any idea who I am?" she screamed, her voice echoing off the canyon walls. "I am a victim of domestic violence. I am here for medical treatment. You are violating my HIPAA rights. I'll sue this entire department." When the officer reached for her arm, she didn't collapse or cry. She swung her $200 designer yoga bag at his head. "Get your filthy hands off me. Julian sent you, didn't he? How much did that pathetic loser pay you to harass a broken woman?" She went into a full-blown physical tantrum, kicking, spitting, and even trying to bite the officer as he pinned her to the white stone floor. The other guests were filming, gasping, and retreating to their luxury villas. The broken woman defense died right there. You can't claim you're a fragile, terrified victim of coercive control while you're trying to headbutt a state trooper and screaming about how your husband is a soft little nothing. The police report was brutal. They added resisting arrest and assault on a peace officer to her mounting list of charges. The retreat kicked her out immediately, but not before charging her a $5,000 disruption fee, which, thanks to Sarah's emergency injunction, hit her mother's credit card instead of mine. Back at home, I was finally cleaning out the guest room. I found something she'd missed in her rush to steal the TV, a small burner phone charger plugged in behind the nightstand. I followed the cord. Taped to the underside of the bed frame was a small velvet pouch. I opened it, expecting more stolen jewelry. Instead, I found a set of keys, not to my house, to a storage unit. The plot wasn't just thickening, it was curdling.
The storage facility was one of those sprawling, climate-controlled warehouses on the industrial side of the city. I showed the manager my ID and the marriage certificate, along with the key I'd found. Since the unit was rented under a business expense account Elena had set up using my forged signature, my name was technically on the secondary access list. When the heavy metal door rolled up with a screech, I almost threw up. It wasn't just a few boxes, it was a graveyard of our marriage. Elena hadn't just taken her half, she had been systematically stripping our home for months while I was out at job sites. My father's vintage tool collection? Gone. The original blueprints of the first house I ever designed? Tossed in a corner like trash. Our wedding album? The photos had been ripped out and the silver-plated frame was missing. But the most sickening part was the corner dedicated to Leo. There were stacks of high-end car parts, rims, a custom exhaust system, and boxes of leather interior kits, all purchased with my business credit line. She wasn't just having an affair, she was pimping out his taxi. She was literally building a dream car for her lover using the money I saved for our retirement. And then I saw the ledger. Elena was organized. She had a notebook detailing every sale she'd made on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Julian's mountain bike, $1,200. Cash for Leo's insurance. Dining room chairs, $400. Deposit for Riverside Loft. Grandmother's silver, $900. New suit for Leo. She had been hollowed out our life from the inside, like a termite in the foundation. I stood there in the cold fluorescent light, realizing while I was planning our 10-year anniversary trip, she was calculating the resale value of my heritage.
Suddenly, my phone buzzed, a private number. "You think you're so slick, don't you?" It was Elena. She sounded frantic, the background noise suggesting she was in a car, probably her mother's. "I know you're at the unit, Julian. I get the entry alerts on my phone. That stuff is mine. I earned it for putting up with your boring, pathetic life for 8 years. If you touch one box, I'll tell the judge you planted that fraud evidence." "The police are already on their way, Elena," I said, my voice dead and cold. "The manager called them the second I opened the door and saw the stolen business property." "You bitch," she shrieked. The irony of her calling me that almost made me laugh. "You're ruining everything. Leo is going to leave me if I don't get him that car money. You're destroying a real love because you're a jealous, small-minded carpenter." "He's a taxi driver, Elena, and he already told the cops he didn't know you. He's gone." "Liar! He loves me. You're just jealous." She began a hysterical, rhythmic screaming, a sound so piercing I had to pull the phone away from my ear. It wasn't the sound of a woman in pain, it was the sound of a predator who had finally been backed into a corner. "See you in court, Elena," and I hung up. I walked out of the unit and sat on the concrete curb. The police arrived 5 minutes later. They didn't just take a report this time, they brought a crime scene van. The sudden event that changed the game? They found a small baggie of white powder in the pocket of one of Leo's jackets stored in the unit. The divorce was no longer just about cheating and money. It was about to become a full-blown criminal circus. The courtroom didn't look like the ones on TV. It was small, smelled of old paper and floor wax, and felt incredibly heavy. I sat on one side with Sarah, my grandmother's ring back on my pinky finger for luck. On the other side sat Elena. She didn't look like the wellness goddess from the retreat anymore. She looked gray. She was wearing a conservative navy suit her mother must have bought her, but she couldn't hide the hysterical twitch in her eye. She spent the entire morning whispering venomously to her lawyer, pointing at me and mouthing the word liar. The sudden event that broke the case wasn't my testimony. It was the witness the prosecution called to the stand. Leo. He walked in looking like a broken man. His customized Camry had been impounded, his license was under review, and he was facing accessory charges. To save his own skin, he turned on Elena faster than a spinning tire. "She told me her husband was a monster," Leo testified, refusing to look at her. "She said he didn't give her any money, so she had to liquidate some of his old junk to pay for our dates. I didn't know she was forging his name. I thought she loved me." Elena lost it. She stood up, knocking her chair over with a screech. "You pathetic coward," she shrieked, the bailiff moving toward her instantly. "I gave you everything. I stole for you. I ruined my life for you, and you're snitching like a rat? You're just as weak as Julian." The judge slammed the gavel so hard the sound echoed like a gunshot. "Sit down, Mrs. V, or you will be removed." "I won't sit down. This is a kangaroo court. My husband paid Leo to lie. They're working together to destroy me." She started to hyperventilate. This time it looked real. But it wasn't from sadness. It was from pure, unadulterated rage that she had lost control of the narrative. She was escorted out of the courtroom, still screaming profanities at the top of her lungs, her mother sobbing in the back row. The judge didn't need long after that. The divorce was granted on the grounds of adultery and extreme emotional cruelty. Because of the dissipation of assets and the blatant fraud, the judge awarded me 100% of the remaining marital assets, including the house and the storage unit contents. Elena was ordered to pay back every cent she had charged to my business line, though we all knew she'd be paying that off from a prison commissary account. She was sentenced to 18 months for grand larceny and identity theft, with a hefty probation period for the assault on the officer. The day the movers brought my father's tools and my hand-built coffee table back to the house, the sun was shining through the windows in a way I hadn't noticed in years. The house was quiet. No more working late texts, no more black ice air freshener scent lingering in the hallway, no more gaslighting. I spent the evening in my workshop. The shh of my hand plane on a piece of cedar was the only sound. I'm rebuilding, not just the house, but myself. I've started volunteering to build furniture for a local domestic violence shelter, real victims who actually need the help Elena pretended to need. I saw a black Camry in traffic the other day. My heart skipped a beat for a second, but then I saw the driver was just an old man with a coffee. I took a deep breath and kept driving. Elena is gone. The lies are over, and for the first time in 8 years, I can finally hear myself think.